The rabbis take the statement, Lo B'Shamayim, it's not in heaven, and they explain that it is a human enterprise to create and use Torah. This is, again, Sunday chat format. So what we're going to do is, this is one of my favorite sections of rabbinic material. And I'm going to call out, and people are going to start reading it, and I will start and stop, and we're going to discuss a little bit along the way. So, what time is it now?
11:30.
Okay, great. You'll be my timekeeper, and I'll watch, because I tend to get carried away with the teaching format here. So, I've been excited to do this all week with you. All right. Would anyone like to start reading from, and this was the Oven of Achai.
Why was it called the Oven of Achai? Said Rev. Judah, Samuel's name, it means that they encompassed it with arguments as a snake and proved it unclean.
All right, so this story is called the Oven of Achai, and you'll see very quickly it has nothing to do with oven, don't worry. This is going to be a very big theological conversation and less about oven cleaning. But what does this mean here, that they encompassed it with arguments like a snake? So what we got here is that there's this...
A snake coils, and then it unwinds, and it goes out.
And it constricts, and you don't even know. If you've seen like a mass of snakes, and you watch it move, you don't know where it begins and ends. They've made this really confusing. So the Oven of Achai question is this oven kosher or not kosher? It's a really boring question, but usually from the most boring questions we get some really good answers. So this is a little hint that shows that actually, I promise this is the only weird part, the oven was clean the entire time. Rabbi Eliezer, our protagonist, who we're going to meet in a second, was right the entire time. You need to know this before you start the story. All right. So I'm going to keep reading.
It has been taught, on that day, Rabbi Eliezer brought forward every imaginable argument, but they did not accept them. Said he to them, if the halakha agrees with me, let this carob tree prove it. Thereupon the carob tree was torn 100 cubits out of its place. Others affirm 400 cubits.
All right. Why is this funny? They're arguing over the length of a miracle. When that tree got up while we were lecturing, and that tree miracled itself and moved, was it 1 football field or 4 football fields? That shouldn't matter. A miracle, you just saw a tree pick up and move. Why are you arguing about the distance? But the reason they're doing this, and the reason I want to bring you this point, is because the transmission of the story is so key. They will argue about every little detail because rabbis love citing their sources. Is there any difference in these miracles? No. But the details show that the transmission has been accepted. It's been correct. Yeah, no, do you have something?
Well, it would seem to me that some are saying it was torn 100 cubits, others 400 cubits, but it does not seem that they are arguing, just that they're not sure.
Right, they're just trying to get the story straight. This isn't like it's like sitting around whenever you picture the rabbis, they just like sitting around the dinner table and they're swapping stories of, no, I'm telling you that it wasn't that, it was like this, and there are some arguments, and then there are some also, we need to verify that the story's correct. All right, so keep going.
No proof can be brought from a carob tree, they reported.
Okay, so we don't take miracles as proof of someone being right. Is this a radical statement? Imagine this in a religious text. A miracle happens, but miracles happen all the time. Why would you be right because there's a miracle? This is a bizarre statement. Compare this with the Exodus. Everything we talk about for Passover is miracles are entirely God's proof text. And we're going to keep, this Exodus link is going to get a little stronger when we keep going.
Again he said to them, if the halakha agrees with me, let the stream of water prove it. Whereupon the stream of water flowed backwards.
Keep going. Keep going with it.
No proof can be brought from a stream of water, they rejoined.
All right, so even more radical. The major miracle, what's the first miracle you think of for Passover with water? Splitting the Red Sea. We already have a text. I got too excited. Okay, we already have a text. We already know that miracles, specifically miracles involving water, are kind of a key way to show that God is right or on your side. And so, again, let's see. Rabbi Eliezer is saying, if I'm right, let there be a miracle. And 2 miracles happen for this guy. All right, next scenario. Anyone can read it. Again, he urged. Okay.
Again, he urged, if the halakha agrees with me, let the walls of the schoolhouse prove it.
going to fall.
Keep going.
But Reb Joshua rebuked them, saying, when scholars are engaged in a halakhic dispute, what have ye to interfere? Hence they did not fall in honor of Reb Joshua, nor did they resume the upright in honor of Reb Eliezer, and they are still standing thus inclined.
So again, this is a world that you need to suspend your disbelief a little bit. Miracles happen, but they happen for reasons, and we're also going to get into that maybe miracles aren't really that important after all. So one of the reasons I wanted to bring this story, I couldn't believe this was what our Torah portion was about, the Lo Bashamayim Hi. We're going to get to it in a second. But one, I want you to see this next section. What do they do with that statement, that the Torah is not in heaven? And two, I think there's some great Yom Kippur themes, especially in the second half of the story. One of the first ones I can think of is that in the scenario of, I want the walls to cave in, and then another respected rabbi says, no, please don't cave in, and they said, diagonal. Right? If you're caught in a bind between two people and trying to do the right thing by two people, that is a very rough situation to be in. I think this is the first of our Yom Kippur themes. Compromise. Also compromise. It's also why the mezuzah is at an angle, because there were two schools of thought about whether the mezuzah should be upright or should it be horizontal. And we actually have archaeological evidence that we actually didn't have the mezuzah. People just carved the words of the Shema into their doorposts all the way around it. Anyway, really interesting. But yeah, that is why the mezuzah is at an angle. They couldn't decide what to do with it. All right, next scenario, our most outlandish one yet. We had another reader over here. Yeah.
Again he said to them, if the halakha agrees with me, let it be proved from heaven. Whereupon a heavenly voice cried out, why do you dispute with Rav Eliezer, seeing that in all matters the halakha agrees with him?
So God's done with the discussion and the miracle. A voice from heaven comes down and says, why are you disagreeing with this guy? He is right about everything. Not this. Imagine, I really wish this could happen in arguments anymore, right? Of that, God would come down and say, why are you arguing about this with this guy at all? Not only is he right about this, he's always right about everything that will ever happen. It's a fantastic statement. The phrase that the heavenly voice is a bat call. In modern Hebrew, it means an echo. That this booming voice came out. And then we get our punchline. Lo Bashamayim Hi. So I'm going to keep reading.
But Reb Joshua rose and exclaimed, it is not in heaven. What did he mean by this? Said Reb Jeremiah. But the Torah had already been given at Mount Sinai. We pay no attention to a heavenly voice, because thou hast long since written in the Torah at Mount Sinai, after the majority must one incline.
All right, so what is our phrase, the Torah is not in heaven, doing here? What's the point? Yeah, Noah.
If the Torahs are a set of rules and regulations to go by, and the Torah is not in heaven, then anything in heaven can be rightfully ignored.
That last part, yeah, keep going with that last part, yeah.
That we already received the Torah from heaven, and it's up to us what to do with it after that reception.
Yes, beautiful. God's already had his say. God said was the Torah. And now, there's a voice from heaven where God interjects and says, actually, this is how I want Judaism to be done. And the rabbis look up at this miracle from heaven and say, actually, don't worry, we've got it from here. What the rabbis do with the character of God is unbelievable sometimes. Things that we don't get away with. It doesn't even sound like it. This is a holy text, us telling God that, no, please butt out of our discussion. It's unbelievable. So, God can't intervene in how Judaism works anymore. Maybe even God doesn't intervene, period. What do we think about? Is this an empowering statement, a shocking statement, an alienating statement? I want to take a couple of thoughts on this idea right here of how we got from Lo Bashamayim Hi in the Torah, which means the Torah is not far, you should have it around all the time, and now it's Lo Bashamayim Hi, God butt out, we have the Torah.
It's like a rebellious child to a parent.
Okay, how so?
Butt out.
Yeah.
You don't understand. I can handle it.
Is there a little bit of an element in there that, I'm not a kid anymore. You've already taught me everything, and now stay out of it. Yeah.
But it's also the viewpoint that some people have that God is looking at every single decision you make and influencing it, versus the viewpoint that God has created and is sitting back
Yeah.
watching his creation.
Good. Yeah, it definitely helps us. It brings in this issue of theodicy. What is God doing right now? And the theodicy also gets into why bad things happen to good people. What is the role of God anymore? Is it there's many different God theories. One is the watchmaker, which is basically the code that you brought up. God winds the watch and then just sets it and lets it go. Or is there somebody watching over the entire proceedings here? Good. I'll take one more and then we're going to keep going. Empowering, alienating. Does anybody really not like this statement? Telling God, please don't talk to us anymore.
It's a little arrogant.
It's a little arrogant. Okay. Do you expect anything less from rabbis? I mean, come on. Okay.
No, anything like lawyers.
Yes, good. Lawyers tend to give rabbinic discussions a little bit better than the rest of us. They're like, oh, this isn't useless at all. Anyway, that's what I know.
It doesn't, I don't know, it's certainly interesting to forcefully attempt to walk away from a being so powerful that he could eliminate everything that's ever existed ever by thinking about wanting to eliminate everything ever existing ever.
This is a dangerous statement, and they make a lot of those.
Good. Were I God, I would just vanish.
Oh, good. I promise he's never a plant. He always brings up the next thing we're going to talk about. Oh, it's beautiful. Anyway, I don't flip him 20s in between sections. Okay. But real quick, this is where we usually end the story in most progressive Judaisms. Liberal Orthodoxy love the story. Conservative Judaism loves the story. We absolutely love this story of, no. Torah and Judaism is a human product, and it's our turn now. We're going to pick up the Torah and run with it. But the story in the Talmud, in the original, it keeps going. I actually heard the first part of this story years before I heard the second part of it. And I kind of wanted to bring them both to you together because we don't, has anybody heard the first part of this story or bits and pieces of it? The second part is very radical. And the second part is, I think, where we get some great Yom Kippur themes that I want to talk about. Okay. Let's see here. We're at Rabbi Natan meets Elijah. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped one part this part is usually the punchline. Rabbi Nathan from...
Nathan met Elijah and asked him, what did the Holy One let you do in that hour? He laughed with joy. He replied, saying, my sons have defeated me. My sons have defeated me.
This is usually where we stop the story. Here's a good punchline. What did God say after the rabbi said, please butt out? And God starts to laugh. Sorry? He said, right. I said, what am I going to do with these people? This is where we usually stop the story. What do you think of the character of God here? We see two instances with God, the character. Miracles happen, and now God's laughing at us.
One of the definitions of being an adult is that you can disagree with what your parents want you to do and go ahead and do it anyway. In this case, God, as a parent, is sitting back and saying, oh, that's okay.
Right. That's interesting. I see what you did there. And the beauty of it is we quoted Torah to God. We told God that, by the way, this thing that you wrote, actually you misunderstood. We just read what it was supposed to be in context, and we took a phrase out of context and used it in a fight against God. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous what we're doing here. Now we're going to get into some Yom Kippur themes. It was said, on that day, all objects which Rabbi Eliezer had declared clean were brought and burned in fire. Which meant, not only is Rabbi Eliezer wrong about this, by the way, God told us Rabbi Eliezer, right? Not only is he wrong about this, everything that he ever said was kosher is not kosher. We had a statement from heaven that says he's always right, and the rabbis declared you are always wrong. Then they took a vote and excommunicated him. Not only are you wrong, but you are out of the club. Excommunication is the worst thing, that the highest power that the rabbis can wield against someone. Said they, so the rabbis, and apparently he's not even there when they kick him out of the club. Who shall go and inform him? I will go, answered Rabbi Akiva, lest an unsuitable person go and inform him and thus destroy the whole world. So, destroy the world. We already know that miracles are happening on account of Rabbi Eliezer. So, this principle of kal v'chomer, how much more so? If miracles happen when he's right, how much more so are miracles going to happen that are not going to be good when we clearly have done something to wrong him?
Does jealousy enter into this?
Yes. We're going to get into some familial strife. We're going to get into some academic politics. It's all there.
pretty catty.
Yeah, good. I would hope you would think that. No other thoughts? You got one more? Okay, I'll come back to you. All right, yes.
Give another copy of the handout.
Okay. All right, yes.
Can Jews be excommunicated?
Okay, so Cherem is something that we've been using. Let me put it this way. All the best Jews have been excommunicated. So Benedict Spinoza, Maimonides at some point, Mordecai Kaplan, if you're excommunicated, it means the Jews really think your writing's pretty good. But yeah, in all seriousness, yes, this was a threat that was used, seriously.
It's a term that most of us are not familiar with, Carol.
Yeah, putting someone in a harem, I can't even remember the root of it now, but it basically means excommunication. If you aren't excommunication, like the Latin root, like excommunion. You're not in communion with us anymore. We don't talk to you. We can't sit down with you. We're not going to chat with you anymore. That's where the English root comes from. So what do we learn from Rabbi Akiva? What did Rabbi Akiva do? Does somebody want to read this for us?
He donned black garments and wrapped himself in black and sat at a distance of 4 cubits from him.
Okay, so what does this teach us?
He's afraid.
Yeah? Why?
Oh dear. Well, kind of what you said before. What's going to happen if we had miracles when Rabbi Eliezer said he was right? Now what done wrong happened, but I have to tell it.
Whose side do you think Rabbi Akiva is on? The rabbi's side or Rabbi Eliezer's? Why? What hints in the text get you there?
Well, does a less than unsuitable person go and inform him and thus destroy the world? He clearly thinks that Eliezer is right or has some sort of connection.
He thinks that the wrong thing has been done. He absolutely agrees with that. And then he has mourning rituals. So, keep going.
He also, you can see, sides with the rabbis because he sits 4 cubits from him.
Yeah, good. I was hoping you'd point that. So 4 cubits is, this is the rabbinic definition of personal space. 4 cubits is a big hug. So if you are 4 cubits away from something, it means you need to respect their boundaries right now, because they're about to be upset.
Does everybody know what a cubit is?
A cubit is this. Okay. 4 cubits is a big hug. That's how we...
6 feet, roughly.
One of these.
One of those is a foot and a half.
Okay.
So it's
I told you I can't do Torah math. Okay, but I believe you.
Okay, so he was 30 feet away.
No. He's this far. He's this far away. 4 mo's a big hug. I like saying that because I had a friend who coined that, and I'll say that in her name. All right, so now we get this conversation.
Master, he replied, it appears to me that thy companions hold aloof from thee. Thereupon he too rent his garments, put off his shoes, removed his seat, and sat on the earth, whilst tears came from his eyes. The Lord was then smitten, 1/3 of the olive crop, 1/3 of the wheat, and 1/3 of the barley crop. Some say the dough in his hands swelled up.
So I love the phrase, your companions hold aloof from you. So it's not, we're kicking you out of the club, it's, you're clearly right and we are running away from you. We are all just picked up and moved away from you. You should stay exactly the way that you are.
Okay.
Yes?
I may be wrong if this is the right story, but and it might be a midrash, that Rabbi Eliezer's feelings were so hurt in public, that that's where a lot of the rules about gossip come from, especially insulting someone or reprimanding someone in public, that it was worse, like a worse sin than killing someone.
Yeah, there's a section there called like
it's
that.
so sad, like what happens after this, and wherever that story comes from, it's just,
Right.
it's sad.
There's a lot of traditions about this. Public embarrassment is compared to letting someone's blood, meaning when your cheeks get red and blood rushes to your face, it's like you spilled their blood. It's a very big metaphor.
But it's also here a mourning ritual.
Right. All right. Atana taught, great was the calamity that befell that day, for everything at which Rabbi Eliezer cast his eyes was burned up. Rabban Gamliel is the head of the academy. He's the principal. He's, in theory, in charge of all this. Rabban Gamliel, too, is traveling in a ship when a huge wave arose to drown him. Again, more miracles. It appears to me, he reflected, that this is on account of none other but Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus. Okay, what's interesting about this statement? Imagine you're on a boat, a giant wave comes up, and the first thing you think of is like, oh, that guy. I remember when I did something bad to that guy, right? Yeah.
How does he even know what transpired?
Right. That's another good point. If he's the principal and he's on, not vacation, sabbatical, right? How is he supposed to know what they've done in his absence there? Anyway, any other thoughts on this? Has anybody thought about this? If like something bad in the cosmic in the universe happens, and you're like, I know exactly what I did wrong. It's a really bizarre statement. I think more good Yom Kippur themes here. It's exactly what he did wrong. Thereupon Rabban Gamliel arose and exclaimed, Sovereign of the universe, thou knowest full well that I have not acted for my honor, nor for the honor of my paternal house. It's very, he's the principal is kind of a hereditary position here. But for thine, so that strife may not multiply in Israel. Rabban Gamliel's apology is, I did this for the Jewish people. This is a good excuse. This is a bad excuse.
Well, he didn't do it.
Okay, maybe he didn't do it, but, what? He's on the boat, but while the cat's away, the mice will play. He's still technically in charge, I think. Right, there was another hand over here. Yeah? No other thoughts?
What's interesting is that he's still actually, in a way, I don't know if decrying is the right. He's still, if that is his argument, then he's still acting a little rude.
Yeah,
God is
good.
ready to butt out because he's saying, yeah, I know what you told me to do, but I still didn't do it. And providing a reason for why he didn't do it is still not, you're still not repentant for it.
He says to people when they do something to wrong them, I did it for your own good. That's what Rabban Gamliel is telling God. God, you were wrong to butt in. I did this for your own good, to kick the end. And honestly, I'm painting a kind of bleak picture of Rabban Gamliel. On the other hand, he's kicked out the guy that does miracles in favor of logical, rational argument. I think this is something that we can kind of get on board with in modern religiosity, right? We don't talk about miracles anymore. You know what we like as Jews? We like good, rational argument about how this is supposed to work.
Happened in Congress.
What? Rational argument? Sorry. All right. So, got you. Now I hear you. Okay. And that's, yes, one more.
So, just to make sure. So now, Eliezer basically causes everything he looks at to spontaneously combust. Waves
Yeah, I thought
are
you'd like this story.
destroying everyone because of an oven.
Yeah, again, don't lose sight that it's because of an, no, he's got it right. Don't lose sight that this is because of again, from the weirdest questions, you get the best answers. Okay. At that, the raging sea subsided. The narrator shows that God was actually okay with this explanation, that I did it because it was good for you. Ima Shalom was Rabbi Eliezer's wife and sister to Rabban Gamliel.
So they're brothers-in-law.
They're brothers-in-law. I told you we gave them the family credit card. I also just love the way that they lay out a story, right? You know, the juicy details kind of like, oh, by the way, and their brother-in-law. This is a nice little aside meanwhile back at the ranch, we're giving you more information. Okay. Now we live this conflict between brother-in-laws. Ima Shalom, very interesting, one of the few named women in all of rabbinic literature. Very rarely do we usually just have a daughter of so-and-so or wife of so-and-so. She has a name, which is definitely important in the story, and her name means the mother of peace. From the time of this incident onward, she did not permit him, Rabban Gamliel, her husband, to fall upon his face. The original Hebrew is tachanun. So part of tachanun is one of the things that every day, part of the daily repentance, that there's a part of daily service that you're supposed to get on the ground and repent every single day, not just Yom Kippur. But Ima Shalom did not let her husband do tachanun. Why is that? Now, we're going to get into it. Now, a certain day happened to be new moon, which she mistook a full month for an effective one. This is a technical point. You can't do tachanun on holy days. You can't fall on your face and tell God why you were wronged on holy days. Others say, a poor man came and stood at the door and she took some bread out to him. The point of this is that she quit watching him she's trying to actively prevent her husband from praying. She came back, she stopped watching him, she came back and she found him fallen on his face, aka he was doing the prayer. This is a prayer that's talking about, I should have brought you the text of like, God, my heart is in distress and there's enemies all around me and I'm just in terrible straits and I don't know what to do. The punchline that keeps coming up with this prayer is called, I don't know what to do. It's a refrain. It's very moving. So she found him doing the prayer. Arise, she cried out to him, thou hast slain my brother. In the meanwhile, an announcement was made from the house of Rabban Gamliel that he had died. Whence dost thou know it? That Rabbi Eliezer asked her. I have this tradition from my father's house. All gates are locked, excepting the gates of wounded feelings. So he's wronged, and he cries out to God, and God understands that Rabbi Eliezer has been wronged, and Rabban Gamliel died. This is why one of the first head of the academy, one of the most important rabbinic figures, dies, because he has offended someone. So what is this? I want to get a couple of thoughts on these questions. What does this teach us about Yom Kippur, about wronging another person, and what do you think of this last phrase, all gates are locked except the gates of wounded feelings?
The comment is made that we can, when we have wronged God or argued with God, we can restore that with prayer, but with a person we have to do it face to face.
Yeah. It's not recorded that they ever speak again, Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Eliezer. When he's excommunicated, he goes out. Actually, there are reports of he's excommunicated, and some rabbis are having a discussion. They say, oh, you know who knows the answer to this? Rabbi Eliezer. And they don't tell any of their superiors. They just go off and find him, and he answers all their questions, and they come back, and the teacher says, how do you guys know all this information? They're like, we are really good, because they can't say it's Rabbi Eliezer. What does this teach us about young people? Yeah.
I have a question about fall harvest fest.
Yeah.
Every day, that's what the Muslims do
Mm-hmm.
in their temple, whatever it might be called.
Right.
Mosque.
The pose for Tachanun is this. You sit down, and while you hold the prayer book like this, and you're reading, and you put your hand like that. It's not a full prostration, but you're in a very low spot, and you slowly get up, right? You start like this, and then you move to sitting on a chair, and then at the words, we don't know what to do, everyone stands up together. It's really moving. We should try it sometime.
So they didn't get that from us.
They didn't get that from us. I wouldn't say any positive cultural link but bowing is a pretty general human feeling, right? Liking to have, it's something that we do with royalty all the time, right? That's the thing that's in charge. What am I supposed to do? I'll bring you some text on bowing too. We have some really interesting why do we bow during the Amidah? Well, because there's 18 vertebrae in the spine and there's 18 prayers, so all of your spine has to be bent over. And some of it says, well, there's 18 times in this prayer that God's name is mentioned, and then eventually they get to, wait, aren't there 19? And they said, oh, right, and they have to go back and fix all their theories. 19 means also the tailbone, so sometimes you should sit down in prayer. I'll bring you that text sometime. Sorry, I didn't explain that one very well. But any more thoughts on themes of Yom Kippur? What happens when we've wronged someone? What does it mean that wounded feelings always get through in prayer? All right, last word to Noah.
I think maybe the moral of the story, Nick, might be don't make mountains out of molehills. And it's better.
Still hung up on the oven.
It's better to throw your bread onto the fish and let them eat it than let this bread fester and cause what apparently cause you to involuntarily shoot lasers out of it.
Right, it turns into Cyclops, yeah.
But the all gates are locked except for these wounded feelings. At some point, if I remember correctly in our literature, somewhere, it says that there are times where you cannot pray unto God and have that heard unless you're praying from the position of wounded feelings or something similar.
Yeah, there's another tradition that there's a whole bunch of, each of the tribes of Israel had their own individual heavenly gate that their prayers went through. But we don't know what tribe we're from anymore. And so there's this conversation, oh my gosh, how are prayers going to get through? And then that's where that statement you brought up comes from, is that no. All the gates are, the only gate that's never locked is the gate of wounded feelings. All right.
Wait, aren't we all from
We'll get into Jewish genetics next time, where we're all from. So thank you for letting me show that. It's one of my favorite stories. I think it got us some interesting Yom Kippur themes here. And I want to continue with us reading our Haftarah, and we'll hear the story of, Genesis this afternoon. Haftarah is Isaiah 58.
It's 12
It's on page
o'clock.
347. Thank you. Perfect. That's exactly how I typed it.
So we're in my book on page 346. And I'm going to read the blessings in Hebrew, but the Haftorah itself in English. Slowly so that you can sit and listen. Just a few minutes. It's long. Get comfortable. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'chai b'nbi'im